Hi everyone, it's Claire here. I hope you're all well and safe. Today I thought we could look at habitats. So a habitat is where an animal lives and it needs to live in that habitat because of certain things in that habitat, which I'll describe as we go through. So the first one we have got is corals. So corals live in warmer seas, like off the coast of Australia, the Great Barrier Reef. And corals are made up of lots of living organisms, okay? And fish can live off these organisms, and these organisms provide, they use light to make food. So there's lots of spaces for fish to be safe and things like that. So lots of fish, like Nemo fish, clownfish, call the coral reef home. So it's because there's lots of spaces for them to hide in and there's lots of food for them. Okay, we've got something here, grass. Now, a lot of animals that we see in the fields now, like horses and sheep and cows and goats, they need grass, they need fields to live in. So we see these around, they need lots and lots of grass to eat and lots of space. So the fish would not be happy here, okay? So we've got grass space. Here's one, so the rainforest. Now we might have forests in the UK, but over in Brazil, you've got a massive rainforest, it's huge. And loads of animals live in the rainforest. So the rainforest is filled with trees and all types of plants. And there's lots of animals that live here, and it's because there's lots of food for them. It's because it's the right kind of temperature, and there's lots of rain and water for them, and lots of monkeys live in the rainforest, lots of monkey breeds, so they can swing through the trees and they can get their food. There's also lots of insects and birds, and it's because a lot of trees have fruit on them, fruit that we can't eat but the birds and things can. So there's special creatures that live here. In the desert, now we don't really have deserts in the UK like this. We, if you look at very, very hot countries, there's places like the Sahara Desert, and there's basically just millions and millions of tons of sand, and it's so hot. It doesn't rain often, but there are animals that can only live here. So certain types of beetles and insects, and also types of snakes, scorpions, and so on, and they need to live in these spaces because they can cope with the hot and there's food for them to find, okay? And lots of animals like elephants can also live in the desert. There are places where there is water, all right? So the desert is another special place in which to live. Woodlands. Now in this country, we're really lucky, we do have woods, and you know, times of the year there's lovely bluebells and things. There are loads of creatures that like the woodlands, so badgers, foxes, pheasants, rabbits, all types of birds, because there's lots of food for them, there's lots of places that they can build their homes, and it's not too hot and not too cold, and there's a decent amount of rainfall. So woodlands is for homes for different animals. Okay, we have got, we've got some interesting animal pictures here. So these are just some of the animals that might live in these places. We've got here a swamp. So a swamp is where there's lots of water hanging around, there's lots of trees and things. There are lots of animals that call the swamp home. There are certain types of fish. There are certain types of snake, some crocodiles and alligators, and also monkeys and sloths and things like that. These tend to be in hotter countries, not necessarily in the UK. Okay, so if we look at something we may have in our garden or nearby, trees. So a tree is a habitat, it's a place where animals can live. So you might see squirrels running up and down the tree. You might be irritated early morning with a woodpecker chipping away at the bark. There may be lots of birds like swallows or sparrows or pigeons and robins that call the tree home. So they live there, they have their nests there, they can go and find food to eat in there. Okay, so we have lots of those around. We do have some of these in our country, but not necessarily in Suffolk. We've got mountains, and mountains kind of look like big chunks of rock. They don't look like animals can live there, but some animals, such as the snow leopard, they actually can only live in very cold areas and in mountains, which is really surprising. But there are types of animals, like certain types of goat and birds and things like that, that do live in mountains, and it's a lot safer for them. There's a lot less competition for food, and they can find spaces to hide in. So we've got lots of these around where we live in Suffolk. We've got lots of fields. They may have different things growing in them, like wheat or grass or potatoes, or these yellow flowers that make a certain type of oil. So animals that might live here, there may be lots of birds, there may be lots of bees to get food from the flowers. There may be small animals like field mouse, they're really tiny. There may be pheasants as well. They tend to go onto the field and they make that nasty squawking noise. Okay. And that is it for our habitat session. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a look at the habitats where you live, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.